Hey guys, this is Samir for Digit.in, and today we have with us the QiKU Q Terra smartphone, and even though the name is spelled as QiKU, it is pronounced as the fruit QiKU. And the smartphone is available with only one retailer in India, and it is available with an invite system and without an invite system. And if you are a little confused as to what the case is, well, if you have an invite for the smartphone, you can buy it for 19,999, that's about 20,000 rupees. And if you don't have an invite for the smartphone, you can get it for about 21,999, actually 21,999, which is about 22,000 rupees. So you can call the invite a discount coupon for about 2,000 rupees. They are trying to go the OnePlus way. It could be because of stocks or many other reasons. But yeah, if you're interested in this phone, well, you can watch our review and then consider if you should buy it or not. So let's get things started with the build and design. Now, as you can see, the smartphone is really big. It has a 6-inch 1080p display, and it is really quite big. Now, QiKU says that the smartphone has a display to body ratio of about 83%, which is really large. As you can probably see right now, the edge to edge design of the display actually goes from both the edges of the phone. Yes, the top and bottom do have a little bit of a thick bezel, which is completely alright, but the sides are almost bezel-less, and this is a great experience, especially if you're playing games or watching movies or videos on the phone. It's a great experience to have this bezel-less display. The display is very vibrant, it's very rich, it's got good color reproduction. I watched a lot of videos on it, I read a lot of books, and usually you have a blue, yellow, slightly tinted colors on certain displays. That really doesn't affect this display a lot. Sure, the colors aren't 100% accurate, but what's on offer here is actually a lot better than what we've seen on a lot of other smartphones. Now, coming to the back of the device, of course, you have this gunmetal finish. It has metal body throughout. It has a kind of unibody design, which is really nice. You don't have access to the back panel opening, which means you don't have access to the battery, but you do have two SIM card slots and a micro SD card slot on the side, which can open with a pin. You have the speaker grill at the bottom with the micro SD or with the micro USB port, the volume rocker and the button on the side. Now, one thing about the volume rocker and the button on the side is that it doesn't have a textured finish. Now, if you take a phone like the Nexus 6, for example, the power button had a slightly textured finish. So if you got the phone out of your pocket for the first time, you could, just judge the textured finish and identify the button. There were a lot of times where I ended up pressing the volume down button instead of the power button because they're so close and they're almost indistinguishable when you are in a hurry to, get the power on. So yeah, that could have been a nice touch if the power button was slightly textured like the Nexus 6, but nonetheless, what the smartphone does have is a fingerprint sensor on the back. Now, QiKU does claim that it can unlock the phone in about half a second, and I am going to give you a glimpse of that. So right now the phone is switched off, and look at the time lag. So I touched my finger, turned it around, and that is when the display came on. So if you compare it to, let's say, the Nexus imprint, which is there on the Nexus 5X and the Nexus 6P, the fingerprint sensor is a lot better on those, a lot better in terms of faster unlock. When it comes to the sensitivity, or rather the accuracy of unlocking the phone, I would recommend you actually place your finger on this in slightly weird ways, so slightly angular, slightly off, half the finger touching it, maybe more of the base touching it. So when you do this, you do calibrate it in a more holistic way, so that even if your finger touches the back, the sensor, it's not going to be really that awkward and give you an error message to actually do it again. You can actually just touch it slightly off and it's still going to unlock the phone, which is great. So overall, the phone does have a great build, a very good design. It's really huge. If you put it in your jeans pocket, the average jeans pocket is going to have this big bulge, which is of course going to have questionable looks coming at it. But apart from that, if you're someone that likes big phones, especially in the 6-inch category, this is a great looking phone. It's very well built, and of course the rear houses these two 13-megapixel cameras, which I will touch upon when I start talking about the performance. The front also has a front-facing camera which takes surprisingly really good selfies. Another problem is the bottom has the three standard buttons that you get, the back, home and multitasking buttons. Now, they aren't backlit, which might not seem like such a big deal, but try to navigate it in, let's say, a theater or in the middle of the night when you're trying to look at your phone and go back home, go back, or press the multitasking button, and you will realize the importance of backlit buttons when it comes to these things. So yeah, apart from these few small cons, when you look at the bigger picture and the build and design of the phone overall, it is a great looking phone, but it is still big with a few nicks. Moving on to the user interface. Now, this is running on Android 5, and it does have its own custom user interface on it. Like many other user interfaces that we've seen, be it on the Honor 7 or Xiaomi phones, there is no app drawer, so all your apps are listed on the home screen, which is fine. I personally do prefer an app drawer, but the fact that it's not here still means that you can put all your apps into folders. Now, one disadvantage of putting them into folders, as you can see here, every time you put it into a folder, you get like a custom display regarding what the app is, which is actually kind of nice. But like you can see, I wanted to name the folder messaging, but it actually just says messaging. So there is a character limit to the number of characters you can put to label a folder, which can get a little limiting, especially if I can't even write the complete word messaging for a folder I want to call messaging. That is a bit of a bummer. Now when you see the drop down notification, it does look a little cluttered. You have two lines of standard controls in the settings that you have, be it Wi-Fi, your data, Bluetooth, ringing, auto rotate, your other notifications, and let's say a screenshot. I have the weather as well, but that's not all. When you swipe up from the bottom, you have a very iOS-like user interface, which gives you your Wi-Fi, data, ringing, rotation, lock, airplane mode, the brightness settings, and of course torch, and a few others. Now, it would have been great if the settings that are present out here weren't repeated in the drop-down notification, so there would be great justification for having two different a drop down and a pull up notification center. For those of you that are used to an iPhone, it just makes sense to have this if you're shifting to Android, a phone like this. The fact that you have a drop down and pull up makes sense, but again, like I said, there is too much repetition happening in both the places. Another con with the UI is that it is extremely buggy. Apps like Facebook and a few more just kept crashing on us. We're going to try to check if we can get the app to crash again, show it to you guys, but Facebook was one that crashed all the time. When multitasking also, if you had a lot of apps open and let's say for the entire day you haven't closed many of them, again you will notice a few hiccups, especially with crashing. Speaking of apps, there are a lot of apps like the new Need for Speed game or even Apple Music and a few more that are not compatible with the device. So if you actually open the Google Play Store and if you have these apps in your already installed section where you've used them on other phones and you try to install them on this, it will say that this app is not compatible with your device, and that is a big bummer. So if you are one that is very finicky about particular apps, we recommend you take a look and check if they're compatible with the QiKU phone before you invest in it. There are a few syncing apps, third-party apps as well. Let me see if I can get the name out for you, which I actually use to sync SMSs when I'm changing devices, which actually did work. So we have even the Delhi public transport app apparently wasn't compatible. Apple Music isn't compatible. And here we go. Okay, so that's a really long list. SiteSync, yes, SiteSync is the app that I use, and it doesn't show anything out here when it comes to free or install. And when I click on it, you get a message saying your device isn't compatible with this version of the app. So yes, there are a few apps that aren't compatible, and it is a bit of a bummer. Overall, the UI is great. It's something new that's different. It is pronounced as QiKU, QiHOO is the name of the UI. At the launch event, QiKU also said that certain features like Android 6.0 has a feature called Doze that consumes very little battery when the phone is still, let's say in the night when it's on your nightstand, it consumes very little battery if your phone is running Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and QiKU has actually built in that feature into their UI OS overlaying Android into this phone. So they have brought some of the features from Android 6.0 to this device, which is a nice touch. Now coming to the performance, this device is a breeze. On our benchmarks scores, it scored really well in comparison to, let's say, the OnePlus 2, which is our best smartphone under 30,000 rupees. So yes, it is competing with better heavyweights like the Nexus 5X, which right now is at about 25,000 rupees, whereas this is for about 22,000 rupees. So be it playing games, watching movies, even the audio, despite the fact that it has a single speaker right here, I so wish it had the front-facing speakers like HTC. That would just enhance the complete entertainment experience. But of course, keeping the form factor in mind, that may not have been possible. Nonetheless, unless you cover the speaker, if it's open when you're holding it to watch videos, if the speaker is open, it's fine. You get pretty good, loud, clear audio. Even if you've kept it on a table, the audio is coming out from the base and not the back like we've seen on other phones, so it's coming out of the base, which is still fine. The audio is loud, is crisp, is great. Playing games on this phone was an absolute breeze. So playing a game like Asphalt 8, for example, it ran absolutely smoothly without any hiccups, and the experience of playing a game on such a beautiful display which is so wide, especially watching videos also, if you can watch, let's say, the new Dawn of Justice trailer or the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer on this, that's what we've been watching. The color reproduction is good. Overall, this phone is just functional. For the price you pay, apart from the few nicks in the UI and the few random crashes, which I'm sure can be fixed with the software update, the overall performance of this phone is really, really good. Even coming to the call performance from the earpiece, it's loud, it's crisp, it's clear, so the microphones, people at both ends could be audible very, very well. Now, finally coming to the 13 megapixel cameras at the back. Now we have two 13 megapixel cameras, both are Sony sensors. And to describe it very simply is one picture takes the color image, the other takes a black and white image, and it is fused together to give you a perfect image. That's how QiKU describes it. How I would describe it is, if you go out in well lit bright conditions, you can see some of the pictures here, it performs extremely well. The camera is snappy, it's fast, it's got a lot of customization options, it can take videos in 4K, and if you have a very well lit situation, the camera performance is brilliant. Even in low lit situations, the camera performance is actually really, really good. If the light is slightly dim and you don't want to use the flash, you still get really great images that you can use for social networking. You can log on to digit.in and read our article where we have actually compared the camera on the QiKU Q Terra to the Xperia Z5 Premium, and the Z5 Premium is about 50,000 plus price smartphone, and this is for about 22,000, and you can read our verdict there as to which is the better camera. So coming to the final question, should you invest in this device? Well, let's see, you're paying about 22,000 rupees for a phone, and if you have the invite, you get it for about 20,000 rupees, and it has the Snapdragon 808 3GB RAM. Yes, 16GB built-in storage, which is kind of limiting. If you're someone that downloads a lot of apps, you know that built-in storage is very important, even though you can expand it via a micro SD card. 16GB for me is still limiting. But yeah, again, considering the price and the hardware, the Snapdragon 808 3GB of RAM, it's a smooth performer, it's a great phone. Storage, yes, it's limiting, but the overall package on offer is great if you don't mind investing in a Chinese brand. The QiKU Q Terra is actually doing in 2015 what the OnePlus One did 2 years ago. The OnePlus One, when it launched, it ran on Cyanogen. We're not talking about the Oxygen OS, we're talking about Cyanogen, we're talking about the Sandstone back, which gave it such a unique feel. It was such a great device to hold in your hand. It had a good 5.5-inch 1080p display, great hardware under the hood for its time. It was an overall package phone that proved that you don't need to spend 40 to 50,000 rupees on a flagship device. And the QiKU Q Terra is actually doing the same thing in 2015. It actually tells you that, hey, you know what, you don't need to spend 40,000 rupees to get a great smartphone experience. It does have its few bugs that I hope get fixed in a software update. But as of now, if you have a budget of 20,000 rupees and don't want to invest in, let's say, a Nexus 5X, which is at about 25,000 rupees, or a OnePlus 2, which is at about the same price tag, if you're closer to the 20,000 price point and you want a Snapdragon 808, a great 1080p display, a great camera, a great overall package, and don't mind living with the fact that maybe Apple Music doesn't work on this as well. So yeah, if you are an Apple Music lover, then you may want to reconsider your options. But hey, you know what, there are a plethora of music apps out there that can serve your needs. And we think the QiKU Q Terra definitely deserves a bit of attention, especially if you're someone that's on a budget of 20,000 rupees and looking for a great overall package.